What's up, guys, and welcome back to another daily outlook where I will go over the yen pairs and see what they will do for today and the next week. So let's take a look at the swing structure on the yen basket first to give us a general direction for all the other yen pairs. So we are daily swing bullish and we already made that pullback, so we could head up higher again. Now if we look at the order flow, we kind of have some bullish order flow, but keep in mind that we're also having some bearish order flow as well. We had a supply which we respect, then we had another supply which we are respecting, and then we have our last supply which we also are respecting, or should respect at least. So basically we are now fighting in between bullish order flow and bearish order flow, but because we are bullish swing, right, we are swing bullish, so we could eventually respect the demand zones and trade up higher. Also, with some fundamentals, it looks nice to give some strength to the yen basket. So let's go over to the 4-hour and let's see what we want to look at. So we are 4-hour bullish, right? We trade down lower, up higher, down lower, and now we could trade up higher again in towards a swing high because we took some liquidity under the lows and we created that order flow switch on the 4-hour. So we now have this demand zone which could push price up higher again. So what I'm now waiting on is a 4-hour change of character inside this 4-hour demand zone, and once I see that change of character, then I know that we have confirmation that the demand zone is valid to push price back up higher again. So that's all I'm waiting for on the yen basket, but this will take some time, but will probably be for today or tomorrow. So let's look at euro yen. Let's begin with the daily, of course. So on the daily, what can we see? Well, that we grab liquidity above this high so that we could expect a move down lower. There is also some liquidity under these lows and we have an open demand zone. So it looks nice to trade in towards that demand. Now the only thing that we should keep in mind is that this demand is still in control and this demand still could push price back up higher in towards the highs. So that's why I am not shorting euro yen. So let's go look at the 4-hour and let's see what price is doing there. So after grabbing that liquidity, we got a pullback in towards the downside, but after grabbing this liquidity and trading in towards this demand, what happened? We just traded up higher and we still are 4-hour swing bullish. So am I going to take a short setup in line with the yen basket that should trade up higher? Well, I'm not going to do it on the euro yen because we are swing bullish and it would be counter trend. Now let's say we move down lower, we break the swing, we are now swing bearish, we then get a pullback, then I will take a short setup inside that demand, okay, or towards that demand. But for now the order flow might seem bearish, so you could take a short setup in line with the yen basket that should trade up higher, but I don't think it's the best to trade because it is counter trend on the 4-hour and counter order flow on the daily because the order flow on the daily is still bullish. Going over GJ now, well, looking at the daily first, after grabbing liquidity over here, well, what could we see? Well, that we have an order flow switch and that we also break the daily fractal. So now we have a daily supply zone, and from here we could trade down lower again in towards all of these liquidity lows, right? So we do got to keep in mind that there still is this yearly level with this supply zone where we could possibly trade in towards and then trade down lower. So it is a possibility, just so we have that in mind. So what do we now see? Well, that we have a 4-hour supply over here and that we also have some liquidity above these highs, right? So basically we are 4-hour bearish, so we could already trade down lower, but I also want to see, I always want to see liquidity getting taken out, then some confirmation, and then I will short over here. So basically at the moment I am not looking at GBP yen shorts. I will wait for further development, which will take some time and will probably not be for today. So first a liquidity grab of the high and then confirmation in order to trade down lower. If we do not see any confirmation, then we could just trade up higher in towards the daily level, and from there we could sell off. Going over to USD yen, well, let's look at the weekly on USD yen. So basically we are bearish. So what do we expect? Well, a pullback in towards the 50% level of this move down, right? So which is about at this location. But yes, we grabbed liquidity, but we didn't tap in towards this like refined demand zone. So I still expect like a move in towards the demand, and then we could trade up higher. So looking at the daily, we know that this supply is in control, and then we had an order flow switch again. So we are order flow bearish, and we have this supply which is in control on the daily. So I think that we could at least just trade down lower in line with the overall order flow. So looking at the 4-hour, well, what can we see? Well, of course, that we also have bearish order flow, right? We are respecting the highs and we are trading down lower again and again and again. So what I'm now waiting for is for this supply to get tapped, to take this internal liquidity, and then we could trade down lower. Looking at the 1-hour, or let's look at the swing structure too, we are also swing structure bearish, so it looks really, really nice to take a short setup. Going over to the 1-hour on USD yen, well, I think that we could already look at shorts from the supply and be aggressive. Reason being, well, because we have liquidity link under the supply takes some liquidity and it causes a break of structure. So this is a three condition POI, which makes it a very, very strong supply, which could push price back down lower again. Now keep in mind, guys, today is heavy news because Trump is speaking as well. So this could have some big effect on the market. So I am waiting on that news before entering a position like this one, for example. So yeah, we should keep that news in mind before taking a setup, because otherwise we might get a stop loss, and that's not something we want. So let's go over AD yen. Well, let's look at the daily. On the daily, what happened? We have bearish order flow, but we also see that this demand is just in control as well, and we grabbed liquidity under the low. So now what do we expect? Well, we could trade up higher. So basically what happened, grab liquidity under this low, so we grab liquidity above the high, right? Boom, grab liquidity, boom, grab liquidity. Okay, and then after that we move down lower, we moved up higher, and we grabbed liquidity. Now that we grab liquidity, we could just trade up higher again in towards possibly that daily level. So we got to keep that in mind, because eventually we could trade in towards the supply, and it looks like we created a really, really nice low over here. Now we create another liquidity grab to fuel the next move up. So it is a possibility to just begin trading up higher at the moment. But for now, well, what do I see? That we are swing bearish, correct, and that we have bearish order flow as well on the 4-hour. So from here, I'm looking to take a short setup. Let's say we break this supply, then I will look at further longs into that yearly level at least. But for now, I'm looking at shorts. So let's go over to the 1-hour and let's see how we want to enter. So let's remove this real quick. So what I can see is that we have this supply over here, and we also had this supply over here, right? So one of those I want to see get tapped, one of this one or this one, and we can see that we already tapped into this supply, and now we already had early sellers, we swiped early sellers, and now I want to see that fractal break for confirmation in order to take a short setup. So let's see. Well, this was our 1 hour fractal break, of course. And then this is our 1 hour fractal low, on which I am going to set an alert, so I know that we have a fractal break to the downside. So if we see a fractal break to the downside, then we could expect further downside, of course, but we should also keep in mind that the yen basket is not ready yet, so we should keep in mind that if we take this trade, it is not in line with the yen basket yet, so I'm also going to wait on the yen basket to form really nicely. Unless we get a 4 hour fractal change on AD yen, then I think it's also valid to take the short setup. Going over NZD yen, well, what do we see? Exactly the same as AD yen. We are bearish, we have bearish order flow, and from this supply we could just trade down lower in towards the lows. So let's see, go over to the 1 hour and see where we could look for confirmation. So of course we have the same supply over here, which could push price down lower, and then this is our 1 hour fractal break. But yeah, we took some liquidity above this high. Okay, so let's see, what is the 1 hour structure? Well, the 1 hour structure is over here bearish, right, like this, then bullish, and then bullish again. And yeah, now we could possibly trade up higher after grabbing this liquidity. We could still trade up higher, so I would definitely need some more confirmation on this one. So let's see on the daily. So today we have only been moving upwards, so what I'm now looking for is, after grabbing this liquidity, a fractal break, maybe another fractal break, and then you would take a short setup. The best thing to take the short setup in towards is this daily open or this monthly open, but I don't think you will get the RR for this one, so we need to trade down lower. But I think it's still fine to take more short setups in towards this demand, for example. So for now it still looks great to take a short setup if we get that confirmation in towards this demand zone. Going over Swiss yen, let's look at the daily first. Well, on the daily, what do we see? That we are daily bullish. We have bullish order flow, but also bearish order flow. So we are fighting in between the two of them. We're inside this demand, but also inside this supply. So let's go over to the 4 hour and let's see which one we are going to respect. So what do we see? Well, that we just turned 4 hour bullish, and that the discount prices are over here, so that we still could see a lower movement in towards those discount prices. So let's see, this was our overall supply zone, and then what happened? Well, that this was our overall supply, and now we could say that this is going to push price back down lower in towards those discount prices. So let's look at the 1 hour and let's see if that is something that could happen. So first of all, at those discount prices, what I can see is that we have a demand zone over here, which is still open, so definitely looking to trade in towards that demand zone. Then let's look if we have equal highs. Well, let's see. We do have equal highs above over here, so this might not be the best to take a short at the moment. So yeah, I'm still waiting for another move up, liquidity grab, maybe even liquidity grab, and then I will take a short setup. But for now, I don't like the highs, so I'm definitely waiting for more confirmation. Going over CAD yen, looking at the daily, well, what do we see? That we had this daily demand zone, and that we then had this daily demand, which is now pushing price back up higher again. So of course, we also came from this supply over here, which is now pushing price down lower, and it created this supply. So again, bullish order flow is fighting between bearish order flow. So what do we do then? Well, we scale over to the lower time frame to see in which direction price could go. So one thing that we should keep in mind is, of course, that we took a lot of liquidity under this low, but we also took some liquidity above the high, so we could trade down lower and also trade up higher. So still no direction at the moment on the daily. Let's look at the 4-hour. So what do we see? Well, of course, that we traded in this supply, took some liquidity, then turned 4-hour bearish, and then what happened is that we had this supply being created. We traded above the discount prices, and now we could see a pullback down lower in towards these liquidity lows. So this looks very possible to take a short setup. So let's go over to the 1-hour and let's see what we want to see. So on the 1-hour, let me quickly draw down the structure. This is 1-hour bullish, and then this is our 1-hour swing bearish. So kind of the same as 4-hour, but then I can see that this is also our swing and that this is also our swing, but it doesn't really matter because higher time frame, aka 4-hour, is better than the lower time frame, aka 1-hour. So, well, what do I then see? That we grab some liquidity above this high. Why not this high, guys? Because this high is dead gap, and I am going to make a video about it soon, but that means that it is not valid. So basically, do I see any supply over here which is still open? I do not, but this is a supply that we are in at the moment. And then what do we see? Well, that we had a bad high over here, which we now have taken out. Now we have a nice high, so a yes, and then this is our 1-hour fractal, which we should break in order to trade down lower. So let's see. And if we go over to the 4-hour, well, what do we then see? That we had a 4-hour fractal break over here, right? And then we have our 4-hour fractal low over here. So let's see if we already broke that low, which we did. So now we are 4-hour fractal bearish. And now what do we have? Well, we have a supply over here, which is now going to push price possibly down lower again. So the only thing that I can see though is that we have this refined supply over here on the 4-hour. So we should keep that in mind as well. But for now, what happened is that we took liquidity above this high, and then we now are 4-hour fractal bearish. So let's see what happened on the 1-hour. So on the 1-hour, whoa, let's see 1 second. On the 1-hour, this is our fractal low. We should break this low. So yeah, I'm still waiting for this low to go on the 1-hour, and only then we have some confirmation to trade down lower. But once again, we had some 4-hour supply over here, even though it is not a supply as you can see on the 1-hour, but I still think that we could possibly maybe trade in towards this supply before moving down lower. But if we see that double fractal break, then I will already take a short setup in towards this low. If we only see one fractal break, then we could trade up higher, and then I will look at shorts, okay? But CAD yen definitely looks like a perfect setup that is forming, so I will wait for some confirmation, and then I will take a CAD yen short. So this was it, guys. So see you in the next one, and ciao, bye.